the arts are what grow empathy. And if we can get a little more empathy, maybe we can have a little less division. If you get any product out of it, it is empathy and understanding the feeling behind a ballet piece or a violin solo,
Hello, I'm Terry Miller, guest host of The Value Proposition today. In today's conversation, we're going to dive into the rich history of the arts in the Alleghany Highlands and the future, the promising future. And who better to have that conversation today with me than Tammy Scruggs-Duncan, the Executive Director of the Alleghany Highlands Art Council. Welcome, Tammy.
Hi, Terry.
All right, so I consider this conversation a crossover. So for folks who've watched The Value Proposition in the past, I was a guest a couple of weeks ago where we talked about the boomerang effect. So folks who grew up here, had aspirations or college or whatever, led you away. You've gained a ton of knowledge, and then you bring it all back here to the Highlands. And in our informal conversation, it sounds like you are also a boomeranger. So give us a little bit of your history here in the Highlands and maybe a quick story on what led you back here.
Well, I was born here. I enjoyed the best of what makes this area special. We have always had a history, and people who come from outside the area. So you have such an abundance of talent here. Frances Rupert got me at an early age for voice and music lessons. Many of us. She has a huge legacy. She created this family of talent that we have. I went off to college to study. Well, I went off to college to be a music teacher, high school music teacher. That's what I was going to do. And within 2 weeks, fell into the theater department and, was captured. I got my degree in theater, and then being young and ambitious, I decided I needed to take off to New York City and it was in the middle of my senior year of college. I said, "You've taught me all I can learn here. I'm ready to go and do this." And so I went off to New York and stayed until I got that letter from the student loan people. After a year, your student loan is due. And I thought, well, that's pretty stupid to be 3 credits away from graduation. So I came back and finished at Radford and came here. I did a little stint as the weather girl on Channel 7 way before you were born. But I would have stayed in New York had I not had such a special place to come home to. If it hadn't been so nurturing and such a village, I think, because I wanted my children to have that. I didn't have them at that time, but I came back here. I worked in nonprofit. I worked in local government. And then the grande dame of the Arts Council, Sarah Lou Snyder, decided to retire. So I was very pleased that they chose me to take that position because my training, my interest led me to do what I loved to do in the place that I loved for people that I loved. And that's really a gift. When my children were younger, we spent a year in Roanoke where my daughter went to the Achievement Center. And I could have stayed. Roanoke has a thriving arts community, and I developed colleagues over there because at that point it was only the Arts Council and the Arts and Crafts Center here. That was the art scene. It has grown tremendously, but the kids wanted to come back, so we left Roanoke and came back here so that they could have that same advantage that I had. And I guess everything that I have gathered there has been very beneficial to what I continue to do here.
Yeah. Quick story, I had a nice little stint with WDBJ7 as well.
Did you?
I don't know if you knew that, yeah.
I was at 10, so
Okay.
you were CBS and I was NBC.
Yeah.
They pay minimum wage. Nobody knows that.
Well, I count that as, part of my journey and, talent, that we brought back here to the Highlands. So, But when I think about the arts, often the through line is community. And it sounds like that's the same for you.
Well, and when I came back to the area in the 80s, it was my organization was called the Community Concert Series. It has had probably about 3 iterations. They began in 1953 as the Alleghany chapter of the Virginia Symphony Guild. Then they broadened into the Community Concert Series, and then I think it was in the 70s maybe they incorporated and became the Alleghany Highlands Arts Council.
Okay, so the history is there. I love that. So speaking of the Alleghany Highlands Art Council, last time we saw each other was in the lobby of Kerfman Hall in December when the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra did Handel's Messiah. And we didn't have a chance to talk, but I will tell you, as a local resident, it was a fantastic performance. And when they had the audience stand at the end, I had this sort of full circle moment. We both were in the madrigals at Covington High School, I'm assuming. Did you do madrigals?
I went to Alleghany.
Oh, I did not know that. I assumed you were in the madrigals. But being in madrigals under our director, Alan Tucker, he very much made sure we knew about the classics.
Also, Francis Rupert's legacy.
Absolutely. And so when they had the crowd stand at the end of the Messiah for the Hallelujah chorus, I felt so much gratitude for having grown up here with teachers and musicians who were so passionate about that. And it just felt like, oh my gosh, I am in the same auditorium where I had these experiences growing up, and here my children and my family are with me. And so just as a resident, I want to say thank you for, that to me is the community and the value of bringing the arts to the area. So I'll pause and let you kind of react to that.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You just have to. Perseverance, I think, has been the through line of what I've done in the last 30 years, because there have been some ups and downs. But it does change people's lives, or they do have that moment. I mean, that's what I would call a legacy moment. There you stood. And if rising to your feet for the Hallelujah chorus doesn't stir something in you, I haven't done my job. But we do, like the Young People's Theater Series came into play in 1978. I had just left school, if you want to do the math on how old I am. So I didn't have that benefit, but the artists that we bring here from all over the world don't just come and stand on the stage and perform. They interact with the community. We try to do residency activities. We take them to the students in the schools. Not long after I came to the job, we brought the Royal Shakespeare Company of London to the high schools with Macbeth. We've had like Chamber Orchestra Kremlin, who really like coochies, I will tell you. The Bulgarian Children's Choir went out to the Humpback Bridge because they wanted a photo of themselves in front of our landmark. Chinese Golden Acrobats came frequently. We brought the Tibetan monks with the mystical arts of Tibet, and those monks, even though only 2 of them could even speak English, communicated. My stage crew ended up shooting basketball with them after the performance in the gymnasium, and for me, that moment of seeing these local kids shooting basketball with these Tibetan monks was an opportunity that you don't really get. And we've had kids that have come up, and we've helped them. I've got kids who were interested in technical theater. They were on my stage crew. They're now working professionally. I have one young man who the American Spiritual Ensemble was here, and they were in the band room there at the high school, and one of the kids said, "You ought to hear this guy play." And so he sat down and he played the Maple Leaf Rag. He taught himself how to play the piano. And they were so interested in him, they said, "We want to pay for training for you." I mean, it's Jonathan Elmore. He's now singing at the Met. So we have kids that, that came through some acting programs that are working as professional actors. So I'm kind of proud of that these kids, they have as much opportunity as anybody else and as much exposure. Well, not maybe as much exposure, but they have exposure. What we do when we choose our performers and our programming is we try to bring a lot of different genres, because not everybody likes the same thing. Not everybody's a fan of chamber music. Not everybody's a fan of bluegrass. But if we're bringing bluegrass, we brought Ralph Stanley here. Charlie Daniels, he was on Casey Field. Ben Vereen was on the stage at Kerfman Hall, which was like one of my, I guess that would be one of the high points in my career, because I'm a big fan of Broadway, and he's a big Broadway guy. Ed Asner's been here to play Franklin Roosevelt for the community and for the students. We are not devoid. So a lot of people think if you're in a rural area like this, that it may be devoid of arts and culture. The community, I have colleagues now because our arts hub has grown. Like I said, it was the Arts Council and the Arts and Crafts Center, and now we have the School of the Arts, we have the Masonic Theater, we have lots of arts agencies that have started to evolve. So, especially during the pandemic, that brought us all together in a way that makes us, we have an arts team here.
Yeah. And as a parent, my children did Cora dance Alleghany last year, and you're talking about those collaborations, and I remember, you'll have to help me, was it the shadow dance performance?
Oh, Catapult. Yes.
Catapult, right?
Yes.
So they invited the dancers from Cora Dance to come and learn how Catapult does its thing with the shadows, and this is now a turtle, and it was so funny because the kids came home and they're like, "Mom, turn the lights out," and there's a flashlight, and they're making puppies, and all these things. But all of this, I think, in my research for the conversation today, I sort of listened to an interview that you and David Wiley had before the Messiah, and he mentioned the ability of music to transform and uplift humanity, and I mean that's so much of what you're talking about is just playing basketball with musicians. It's my kids going to a performance and then going home and using their it's bringing that human piece into community. And I love that you mentioned, all of the key players here in the area.
Yeah, I should have left Cora out because they're a big part of
what
happens here.
I love it. I get so excited about this. But I want to switch really quick. You sort of alluded to some of the challenges that exist in bringing the arts to the area. So can you give me a little bit of just a little peek into what some of those challenges might be, and maybe how we as a community can sort of help with that?
They don't just come here. I have people that come to me and say, "How in the world did you get this artist to come to our area?" Well, we pay them. That's their livelihood. And to pay an artist $30,000 to do a performance here may seem like an exorbitant amount to people who don't do it for a living. But in the 90s, we were very fortunate to have the Alleghany Foundation become a source. We get money from the Virginia Commission for the Arts and the NEA. Most of all our donors, we have people who who want to see, or even if they can't come to see what we do, they support us with donations. And then the people who do come are supporting us by purchasing a ticket. And so I think if I had an ask, I would ask people to come out. You know, after the pandemic, all arts agencies suffered. Even the Roanoke Symphony themselves. I mean, the crowds have been down. People want to stay home and watch these performances on YouTube. You can see the Bolshoi Ballet on YouTube, which is not a bad thing, but it is not the same thing as being in the room. There's some kind of chemistry that happens between the audience and the performers, and you can't feel that on your phone.
Absolutely.
So live performance is at risk. The NEA is under fire right now. It is hard when there are so many survival needs in not just the community but the nation, to say, are we going to feed children, or are we going to promote the arts? The arts are feeding the children in a different way. If we didn't have the hope or the inspiration that springs from the arts, I don't know how we would. Now, some people get it from, like, sports or different places, but for me and for you and many of us, we can find the hope and inspiration there.
Yeah. I think about what you talked about with choosing where we can manage to spend our money. Is it food? Is it the arts? Are there opportunities that maybe cost a little less or are free? So I my brain went to the Collins, the open.
Yeah, we do performances at no cost.
Yeah.
We feel like that's part of our mission, and we don't turn anybody away that can't afford to see a show. We have ways. We have people who will support that, and that's why the donors are so important. And the Alleghany Foundation has helped us so much keep the cost of our product down. If you were to see that same Handel's Messiah performance in Roanoke, you would pay twice as much to see that. So they help supplement that, not just supporting getting the artist here, but making it affordable for the community.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So we're sort of, I think, moving a little bit into local buy-in and youth and people of all ages love the arts. And you sort of gave me the in here when you talked about how the arts do feed the children. I want to talk a little bit about the kids, because sometimes, maybe I can't wrap my head around taking a dance class this semester, but I can put my kids in it for a dance, or, Missoula in the summer.
But we've had your kids in Missoula
twice. We plan our summers around it. They will not miss it.
And we have parents who did Missoula Children's Theater as children. The thing I like best about that program is how it, here you can separate into sports teams or school zones. And Missoula Children's Theater really brought people together under one common goal and then sort of bound them as the theater kids or whatever, and there are people, young people who have come to us that aren't the theater kid, but their parent wants to find a way to reach in there, and you don't have to be tremendously talented to be part of the ensemble with theater. It sort of becomes a family, a nucleus in itself. Absolutely. And it'll suck you in.
It does. And now my kids are in the Alleghany Mountain Strings Project. And
she's doing great things with violins.
Yeah. And so one's playing the violin, one's playing the viola. And I saw an article recently that they've gotten into Callahan as a pilot
Good.
to bring it into the schools, which makes it even more accessible, right? So we don't have to find time after school. It fits within the school day. So I just want to make sure that we highlight to parents, those of us who are strapped and running and working and, trying to figure it out, that these are, and Missoula is free. The Alleghany Mountain Strings Project does not cost a ton. Cora Dance Alleghany is pay what you can. So I just wanted to sort of dive into that for a second.
And even if you don't understand the aesthetic of giving the arts to your child, it's an ingredient that is essential. But even if you don't, if you're looking at it very practically, music teaches math, quarter notes, eighth notes, whole notes. There's division and multiplication. They have shown, you've heard of the Mozart effect, how it triggers the synapses in your brain. I will tell you that I did, or there were breakfast times on days of SOL testing where my kids had to listen to Mozart before they went to school because I thought that would help them. There are reams of studies that show that the arts assist an individual in their development across the board.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll just wrap on this with, we took the kids to see Shrek the Musical at the high school last year. Did you see it?
Talk about an abundance of talent.
Oh my gosh, that was, okay, we've always loved Shrek in my house, but man, did it bring it to life and just sort of ignite something.
And could you feel the energy?
Oh, we felt it. Those kids
that's why
were
you have to be
so incredibly talented. So
well, and they have inspiration.
Yes.
Our Arts Legacy Award program recognized Amanda Sprouse this year.
Yes.
But it has gone back to, over the last, 20 years, I guess we've been doing it. One of the first recipients was Frances Rupert. She inspired, there are probably a dozen choir directors or choir members, people that she instilled the love of music in them. So legacy is important.
Yeah.
And then the community they've been very kind to us. We have a corporate co-sponsor program, and businesses see the value of supporting what we do, and just like give local Alleghany. I hope you do a little segment with them because they have been able to bring out the best in this community. People opening their purses to all the causes here. And that's coming up in May. The community's been very kind to us that way. And the fact that you wanted to do this interview, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. How could we talk about the amazing things about the Highlands and not talk about the arts? Well,
but I'm not, I might be the person you think of, but there are so many people behind me.
Absolutely.
We have this organization, the Arts Council, has always been run by just a handful of really dedicated people. And my board works hard. My family, I have to thank my kids back when they were young, and my husband, he may be handing you a program when you come to the next event. So I didn't do this by myself. And then I have people who reinforce what I do by saying it meant something to me. It helped me. That keeps me going.
Love it. So let's talk about the future.
Okay.
Of the arts in the Highlands.
Let me get out my crystal ball.
Where are we going? What do you see as the future in the arts? What would you like to see?
There is a growing synergy in this community amongst the arts organizations. We meet once a month. The Chamber of Commerce has facilitated a group, and it's a network. And sometimes we don't have anything to meet about, but we just get together and kind of talk about our challenges, our successes. I see us growing as an arts community. The Arts Council itself. Okay, let me just do a little commercial because I think the rest of our season, the second half, is in the spring, and it shows the variety. In March the 31st, I think, we have Ball in the House, which is a very hip a cappella group. They're going to be in the schools. Then we have a tribute to John Denver in April, which is maybe a different demographic. It may be us boomers, and I don't know anybody that doesn't love John Denver's music, but this guy's very good. And then we close the season with something more classical. The Richmond Ballet will be here in May. So we like to give a little taste of everything. We have a volunteer guild, and are always looking for people that are interested in volunteering with us. So I'd love to hear from people that were interested to know more about that.
Yeah. And when we talk about the future, we can't ask, and you have your crystal ball, if you could bring any performer, any performing arts group, any talent to the Highlands and say, I can X that off my, I did it, I have arrived. I know you mentioned Ben Vereen.
You mean getting Harry Connick Jr. here to sing at the Masonic or something?
I already have my ticket.
I'm going to turn that question on you, because I really am more interested in what people want to see. We do surveys, and we try to get input from the community on what they would like to have. So I'm going to ask you, if I could bring anything that you wanted to see or you wanted your kids to see, besides maybe Miss Rachel. I don't think we're going to be able to get Miss Rachel.
Yeah, she's not coming.
But who would you like for us to bring?
Oh, gosh. So, well, I am a violin viola mom now. Mm-hmm. And I'll say maybe I say last year, but it probably was 2 years ago. I took the girls to see Black Violin. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of them?
I have.
Yeah, so I took them to see Black Violin in Charlottesville, and it was amazing. Talk about community, because then they brought in a bunch of kids from the middle schools, and they got to do a workshop with them, and then they actually performed one of the closing numbers with the guys that are in Black Violin. But now that the girls are playing, I would love to bring them here. Even just watching the symphony, they were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool to sit that close and watch, folks actually doing what they do every week. But Black Violin does it on a totally different level, and they merge hip hop and the classics and spoken word. And, I think that's such a cool way that they do it. And the fact that kids here would get to engage.
And I put that on my list.
There's my little suggestion in the box. Black Violin. I think that would be so cool in so many aspects for our area.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about your high notes. Is there anything else that, if we were wanting folks who were thinking about coming to the Highlands, about moving here, what message would you give them about the Alleghany Highlands?
Well, you don't have to travel outside the area to get your arts, for one thing. But this is a special place. And I know I'm on the older end of the spectrum. I know that social media probably doesn't put our best face forward. But there is a core of truly caring people here. And that is the essence of the word community. Mm-hmm. And so we have a new era of young, vibrant people like yourself. I'm very pleased with what's happening at the chamber. I see these children. Well, I knew them as children, like yourself, and they're capable adults that are stepping into leadership here, and I'm really excited about that. I mean, we are not old and stale. We have natural beauty everywhere. We have aesthetic beauty, but we have true community here, and that's what I would invite people to come and wallow in.
Yeah. So it's arts that build connection, that enhance our quality of life, that really, really give us all a sense of belonging.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Sure. Didn't hurt a bit.